All right, welcome everybody. This is the roundtable for Earth Week. The topic is environmental justice in New Orleans. I'm very pleased to introduce on my left, your right, Dr. Cassandra Shepard. She's assistant professor in the Department of African American and Diaspora Studies over at Xavier. Up at Xavier, I guess, yeah. And then over here, we've got students both from Loyola and Xavier. In the middle is Katelin Williams. She's ours. And then to her left is Bernaya McCampbell, and her right is Demarquis Milton. They're students from Xavier that collaborated on an internship that they'll tell you a bit more about in a minute. Just a couple of other announcements about the other Earth Week events coming up later today. We've got the cleanup from 5 to 7, meeting the Peace Squad, and then we've got the Frog Walk tonight, and then also tomorrow is the various activities, hands-on stuff in the Peace Squad starting at, 11:30. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand things over to them. So it's going to be about 20 to 30 minutes of their presentation, and then open Q&A, really discussion driven. So happy to hear what y'all think, and please join me in welcoming.
Okay, thank you all. It is a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate you asking us to share our experience and what it is that we have to contribute to this Earth Week. So I appreciate that. What we're going to do first, though, is a little exercise. We would like to do a survey. We do this every place that it is that we've gone so far. And so just by a show of hands, if the answer is yes, please raise them, keep them nice and high, and give us a chance to be able to count. Okay. So the first question is, do you feel disaster prepared? Raise your hand if you feel like you are prepared for a disaster, should one happen. Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay, I see no hands. Okay, that means that we all probably feel a little vulnerable. Okay, question 2. Do you feel that evacuation is an accessible option for you? So if they call for an evacuation, do you feel confident that you could leave? Yeah. Okay. I got 21. Okay. Do you feel confident in your ability to survive a disaster in your residence? So where you stay, do you feel as though you are safe enough to be able to survive? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 12, 13, yes. I got 13. Okay, let's see. Did you all stay in the city for Hurricane Katrina? Hand raised. Okay, no one, of course, because of the age of the population. Did you stay in the city for Hurricane Ida? Hurricane Ida, that was the latest hurricane where it was COVID-19 and people were leaving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Okay. Would you be interested in a community-wide evacuation where people evacuate not as individuals, but as a community? Is that something you're interested in? Raise your hand. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19.
Could you elaborate more on what that would mean?
So Malik Rahim, who we work with, he is thinking about and creating relationships with people that would be able to take in 200 people, 300 people. So if you had the ability to say, we need to evacuate the city of New Orleans, but you could go to Monroe and 300 people could go, would you be interested in getting up as a collective and going out there? It could be buses, it could be whatever. Would you feel like you would like to collectively evacuate? Okay, this is something that he's been working with people to do. And then this is an open Q&A, last question, I promise, no more pressure. What hardships do you think that you personally would have if a disaster were to arise? So if I say you have to survive a disaster, randomly general a disaster, what problems do you foresee in your life actually arising? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Like what to do with pets, like pet care, like what I would do, like in the case that like there are animals stranded or something.
Okay, pet care. Yes?
Immediately finances come to mind. None of us make enough money typically to take us further than our rent.
Okay, yes, the check to check issue.
Routing is a big problem even when there's not a natural disaster. Because at my house, anytime a hurricane or like when the blizzard came through, it becomes a daycare.
Okay, so having too many folks inside of an area. Okay, and yes.
I would say the infrastructure of my home is would not be good. Like the water, obviously like the power of course, but the water, and last time there was it was like a storm, it wasn't even a hurricane, like my fridge broke for some reason.
Okay, I hear that one, and I think that disaster is already at our front door because on Monday we flooded, and I don't think people were expecting that. So thank you all for your participation. Okay, I want to go ahead and say more than about us and what it is that we've done so far. So I'm Dr. Cassandra Shepard, and this is Brenaya McQueen, Demarquis Milton, and Katelin Williams. And we've worked together to be able to help with lifelong activists in our community, Malik Rahim. So this talks a little bit more about that. Now that we just did our survey, we have Katelin, who's been with us because of her senior capstone. And then Brenaya and Demarquis, they're in my AADS 4500 Directed Studies course. And what we've been doing is providing critical community services to the Algiers community. We've helped to assist Black Panther Malik Rahim. We helped him to open up a community center. So he now has a space that he can host programs out of. And we helped him to start his disaster and emergency preparedness clinic. And in April, we held our first demonstration. We've also spoken at Festival of Scholars at Xavier University. We have this, and then we have a few other events planned even after this. We're going to be doing some disaster and emergency preparedness training with the Community Lighthouse Network, which is a bunch of people who they are fortifying some of the churches to make them disaster resiliency hubs. So when you are trying to return from a disaster, you could go to a church, charge up your phone, get some cold air, make sure that your medication, if you have it, doesn't spoil. You can use the refrigerator, so on and so forth. They give lifelines, community lifelines after a disaster. So we've been working on that as well. So we have worked with a few different types of people. We've done Black liberation organizations. We have reached out to churches. As a matter of fact, the churches was our point of contact for our disaster emergency preparedness demonstration. And we've also worked with energy and disaster relief organizations. And this has kept our work focused on the community, focused on also our results and making sure that we actually touch people. I think that sometimes inside of academia, the ideas can be so academic that it doesn't actually create tangible change for people on the ground. And this is also because our way of thinking has been informed by Black liberation strategies, namely Malik Rahim is a Black Panther. Sometimes people say was. He is a Black Panther. And so he helped us to be able to think about direct action. How is it that what it is that you're saying can actually be experienced by people? Okay, so this is just a few more pictures about our journey. This is some of the scholarship that the students worked on. And we've been linking our community and our preparedness efforts. Here is a quote from one of the texts that says, African cosmology draws a connection between various realms so that the study of religion also reflects this kind of interconnected and interdependence. So here we are at one of the community lighthouses, and this is also a church. So it goes to talk about how it is that we're linking community and faith to be able to do this type of work. Okay, here are some of our accomplishments that we've already done, doing our surveys, the field trips we've been on, the handouts that we've created, and much more. I'll allow the students to be able to talk about that. And this is more of the information about the community center that we helped to open. It's at 1529 Newton Street. And I would just like to use this to be able to say, if you want to be able to do more community-focused, grounded work, then please come talk to us about the ways that you could help to volunteer at the community center. Malik is very open about having all kinds of programs inside of the building. As a matter of fact, here are a few. So we have a homeschool co-op. He has Veterans for Peace working out of the building. We have our clinic. He's also running a legal clinic, a library, senior citizen services, a tool library to help with wetland restoration, and a medical clinic as well. These are all either programs that he started, he's working on, or like we're in the process of developing. Okay. I should also make sure that I talk about Malik as a Black Panther. However, he also helped to found Common Ground, which is one of the more active organizations throughout the city. I always say that he was vital. He and his team of college students and volunteers, much like yourself, have been very important to the rebuilding of the city and also in areas that the city has neglected, like the Lower Ninth Ward. Okay. This was part of our outreach letter. And for opening day, the community center that we were working in, it had a tragedy happen inside of the building. So it's named the Gwangi Hollywood Community Center. These were 2 victims who were tragically slain in the building in 2021. And so Malik's vision was he wanted to be able to fill the building with life. And he said that the community had for too long seen it desolate, quiet, with no activity, and it was a site of violence. So he wanted to put life back into that building. I say that to say that this is the family members of the people who were tragically slain at the opening of the center. And they spoke about how much it means to them that we had transformed the space. Okay, and this is more about the opening day, and this is Malik Rahim. Okay. All right, so I'm not gonna labor on my points for too long. I'll go ahead and turn it over to the students so that they could talk about the field trips that we've been on, the activities that we've done, and what they've contributed on their end. Okay, so I'll give it to you all. Please take it away.
How y'all doing?
Good.
I'm asking, how y'all doing? Good. All right. Can I stand up, Dr. Shepard? All right. So it was me, Katelin, Dr. Shepard, and as you can see, Mr. Malik Rahim. We took a field trip to Bayou Bienvenue. As you can see, hold on, let me come over here. As you can see in the background, these are man-made, basically, walls to stop saltwater and any other erosion from occurring in this area. Many years ago, in the next slide there, see it, there were many cypress trees that were right here. And as you can see, with the ground, cypress trees tend to extract chemicals, toxins, salt out of the ground. But whenever, you don't have that, it kind of makes the wetland very vulnerable. So as you can see, the difference, the before and after, that's about in the 1950s, 1960s, and this is current around from, I want to say 2019. We can say that estimate. Time and time as it goes on, we see less and less of that, and we see more of this. As you can see, there's more water than trees in that picture, which is after, and we've discussed how there are different plans on trying to replant those cypress trees to discontinue that erosion that is going around on the coast, specifically in New Orleans East. That is a very prominent area, and a lot of hurricanes happen there. So if we don't have nothing to stop the saltwater erosion or even erosion in general, what could happen during the next hurricane that's like Katrina, We gotta ask questions like that and gather information so we can predict that and, limit the causes that it can bring.
Mm-hmm.
I think you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that I learned a lot from this field trip. I had no clue about Bayou Bienview, nor did I really have any clue about the cypress trees that once existed there and how the saltwater erosion has wilted them away, basically, and has contributed to more flooding because there is less protections against hurricanes and storms. So yeah, this was really educational, and Malik Rahim spoke a lot to us about how his work in wetland restoration and doing that kind of work, trying to put man-made man-made walls of
Those were grasses.
vegetation. Yeah, man-made walls of vegetation and grass that would help to better protect marginalized communities like the East, like in the lower Ninth Ward, where this was, this location is off of Paris Road, if you're familiar, like closer to St. Bernard out that way. But the water meets the East, meets the lower Ninth Ward area, so it's vital that we get more protection so we can be better prepared for disasters. That's all I would like to say about this currently.
Okay, I'll add a few things to that. Also, I should say part of my specialization is in the lower Ninth Ward. So this is Bayou Bienvenue. As they said, these were some of the older pictures. This picture was taken in about, I want to say maybe about 2015, 2016. These little pieces that you see that are poking out of the water, those are gone. Okay, it is almost, which you saw, it is almost, aside from this little ridge, completely open. And so this area, it was victim of saltwater intrusion, where we had, it's a little bit more of an in-depth explanation, but the Mr. Go Canal fed into or backed up into the bayou. It used to be fresh water. It is now salt water, and so it's been killing everything. And even this little thing, you think, oh, maybe we're a little hopeful. This was planted by some university students, and it's gone. They were testing it to see if something would take, and nothing has taken so far. And they've been trying to turn it back. They've closed the Mr. Go since, and they're trying to turn it back into fresh water, but it still doesn't support sustainable life. So we are completely exposed in an area where if you have trees planted, it will help to cut down that the winds and help to reduce storm surge. Okay, this is our community lighthouse field trip.
Hi, I'm Bernaya. So one of our other field trips was the community lighthouse. At first, on going to this lighthouse, I'm thinking it was like actual lighthouse. Like I didn't know what we were going into. But as soon as we were there, you can notice there's more than 100 panels on top of the roof of the it's called St. Grace Methodist Church. And we had the opportunity to tour the church, to tour what they do as a community lighthouse for people post-hurricanes. So when New Orleans is prone to having their outages for up to like 3 days, up to a week even. And these lighthouses, they provide resources, food, AC, like she said earlier, for the people who don't have any more energy or just need a backup source for them. So and we were with Mr. Jake Webster from the First Grace Church and Mr. Gev Johnson, who also helped us show us around the community lighthouse. He's at his own community lighthouse at Cornerstone.
Okay, and so then after that, we did our disaster preparedness demonstration. Okay, this was our flyer. Y'all want to talk about that?
Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, we had our first disaster demonstration. It was very informative. We talked about ways that you can become more prepared within your community, and I was really surprised about how many people who are from New Orleans actually don't feel that prepared during hurricane season, which comes every year. Lots of them mentioned things like finance struggles and how to go through navigating those things after hurricanes, pre-hurricanes. We had people from Footprint who also helped us because they gave us two solar panels and two generators for Malik Rahim that we were able to demonstrate with at this demonstration.
I guess one thing I can say about this demonstration that we did is when I first met Malik Rahim, he asked me what was the most important thing about disaster preparedness, and I had went through my exhausted list of not correct answers, and he finally told me that it was community, which to me felt like, because I'm from New Orleans, to me it felt obvious, but when he said it, it kind of clicked with me that it really is the most important part when you really think about trying to come back after a storm, trying to heal and repair things. It really, the emphasis on community is just, it's the most important thing because we need each other. Nobody can do it alone. So yeah, coming together to learn more about disaster preparedness really cultivates that community, I feel like, and helps us to get toward more environmental justice, like how we're trying to do with this whole thing that we're doing.
To build off of what both of Bernaya and Katelin said, they are both entirely correct. Even with Mr. Malik Rahim, he's very stern on what he says. So after doing this demonstration, it was like I realized how many people in that community specifically didn't really, because I was over home protection, personal protection, I was surprised on how many people weren't really hip or up to knowing the correct protection for themselves, and not just for themselves, but home. When most people think protection, they think, oh, I need to get a weapon, I need to get a knife, I need to get something of the sort. But protection doesn't really just lie on external factors, so internal factors may come into place, like what you eat during a disaster or before or after. You never know. You may eat something before knowing a hurricane has come. You may be lactose intolerant, drink some milk before a hurricane comes. Now you have to stop on side of the road with an F5 hurricane coming. Now it's like, oh no. So it's about, being smart about how you handle yourself, your significant others, family, pets, like she said earlier, and your home in general, just staying updated on knowing where you are at and how can you prevent damage from being done to you and what belongs to you.
Okay. I'll say here, we have on the first slide where each of them took a different aspect of disaster preparedness and spoke about it and presented to the community. But then we also had other experts come in from Footprint and Taproot. We had people come in from FEMA. Someone gave away little goodie bags of also information, important cards to get people disaster prepared and ready, along with flashlights. And we gave away cold compresses, hot compresses, and the students have even received a package that has a first aid kit, a solar weather radio. It's a solar powered weather radio that they could hand crank, and it also has its own included cords in it if you ever need power for your phone during an emergency. My son sometimes just use it, like we just use it. So that was some of the stuff. Now when we did our disaster preparedness survey there, we had only 4 people who said that they felt prepared for a disaster. This was out of 20 people. And then toward the end, we had out of 26 people, everybody said that they felt like they learned a little bit more. But when you see these numbers, what I get from it is very few people feel like they're actually prepared for a disaster. And like, what does that mean then if we experience at least a season of disaster vulnerability every single year, right? And also having been one of the hardest hit communities after Hurricane Katrina, you would think we would be more ready. Okay. We said one of the most critical components, this is different aspects of what it is that the students were working on. Do we want to talk? We can.
So I was, like I just said, self and home protection. Whenever she was mentioning, the hand crank radios, the first aid kits, the flashlight, which are in a bug out bag, which is very smart to have. I started to tear up because I lost mine, but we're not gonna get into that. Self and home protection does not only rely on you protecting your physicality, like I said. You got to think about your emotions, your mental, your spiritual health. You have to also, stay in faith and also keep your head on a good level, because if you allow yourself to sink, everything around you is going to start breaking apart literally and but those are, parts of self and home protection, like critical components of it: physical safety, injury prevention, psychological resilience, support for vulnerable populations. You can either bug in or bug out, which means get a bug out bag or stay in the shelter. And before you evacuate, you can secure your home. First aid and CPR certifications are also a good thing to have.
And that's a part of what it is that we also wanted to be able to do. I also have a Red Cross Club at Xavier, and we're working on trying to bring in people to do first aid and CPR certifications. Okay, so that was more from Demarquis. Okay, Bernaya?
So another critical component of disaster preparedness is backup energy and energy proficiency. So we recommended solar microgrids. For example, the solar crank radio she was talking about, I actually used it on my camping trip in Mississippi last week. It was very helpful. I let it out in the sun so I can charge my my phone while I was out on hikes. And next one. All right. So more information about the community lighthouse itself. Like I said, it had more than 100 solar panels on top of the roofs, and that is about 52,000 pounds. 54,000 kilowatts of energy to be used after post-hurricane. That can also that can use backup energy from the sun to re-up the energy after it's been used throughout the hurricane season. One of the things, I'm not from New Orleans, I'm not from here, so having to go through my first hurricane, which was last year, it was really, I had the fortunate ability to be at a school where we had energy, my power didn't go out, we had food, but not everyone has that stability. Most places, especially in Algiers, I heard there were people's powers that went out more than 4 days, and that's because New Orleans has one of the most outdated energy grids in the nation, and that contributes to the power outages we have every single year. So with power outages, it comes with medicine and food preservation. People who use insulin for their diabetes, they can't store their medicine if the power is out, if their fridge isn't working. So community lighthouses they're able to store these medicines or food, so you'll be able to have them when you need them. And if you aren't able to get to a lighthouse, having your own backup generator and solar panels throughout this time, when we don't have the when outages occur, is very important in this aspect. And another thing is also heat protection. It gets really hot. Another thing I learned after hurricanes, it gets really hot. The sun after many storms, many rainstorms, it's hot. And I'm from Vegas, so it's just, it's crazy. So when the AC is out, the power outages are in. It's really hard. People can suffer from heat strokes and such. So it's very important for people to have cool-off stations like the community lighthouse, or be able to power up your AC systems with a solar microgrid.
Mm-hmm. I'll add to that by saying this is from the community lighthouse. This is Malik Rahim's generator system that he put together with Footprint. Okay, and these are his solar panels as well. Now, what Brian was talking about is that after Hurricane Ida, he was able to power a refrigerator and a few other appliances for, I think he said, up to 7 days before the electricity came on. So he was able to help people out with the generators that also they had built. So this was something that he bought the kit, and Footprint showed them how to be able to put it together, and they were able to put the kit together. We're looking into getting a kit like that for ourselves as well, so that we could learn how to be able to put it together. Part of what Malik wanted to do was to give the students skills so that they could carry it on with them. Bernaya is right now inside of a program that's teaching her more about solar.
Yeah, I'm doing a solar fellowship with Dillard University at the moment. I start next week. It's been like a delayed process because of the program itself. But I'm very excited to use those skills to put them to the community center we work with, and be able to help with putting together solar panels.
Okay, and so this was, I think this was your quote, Renaya.
So one of the books we read throughout this course was Black Earth Wisdom, and I used the quote, "We are addicted to our extractive practices, which assume access to unlimited resources from a limited Earth." And just what this quote means to me is how we use so many resources that are limited. Like when we could be using energy for reusable energy, like for the sun, solar microgrids, to give us unlimited resources of energy.
Also, I'll just say on Malik's machine, we might have it someplace else. There is a place for about 5 outlets, and what he has behind him is a reel that has 5 outlets on it. So he always says that for one of his machines, he has the ability to hook up so many different devices and just keep running extension cords for a little while before it powers out. He has 2 of these units, and like I said, we're trying to get a few more built as well. He also has a lot of solar panels. Okay, so this is my slide where I'm talking about what I decided to do with the classes that we are engaged in service learning. After Hurricane Katrina, I think a lot of professors used to get us out in our classes and say, oh, we had to do service learning. And so what that means is that we detach from just the idea of like, oh, it's academic, theoretical work, more around the lens of you're learning these theories. Let's talk about how we put them into practice in the community. And also that as you are working with the community, you are in fact learning, because it's showing you more about how it is that these theories actually apply to what's going on with people, and how it is that you can directly impact folks with your work and with your learning. So we engaged in that. And as I said before, it then makes it so that we're community grounded, we're action driven. This is Malik Rahim. And then on the other side, this is Robert King. He was one of the Angola 3. And they were some of the longest incarcerated people in Louisiana. So I think that goes to show more about how we were using the tactics of Black liberation that is really around giving people freedom, providing freedom for people inside of their lives, and helping folks to be both independently able, but also bringing folks together as a community. Okay, so this is a little bit more about Malik, and I feel like if I spoke about it too long, I'd be able to say a whole lot. But we see here, this is part of his setup. This is the reel that I told you. He has 5 that he can hook up here and 5 that he can hook up there. And he was demonstrating. He still is very active with the Black Panthers. He also has an annual event where they teach out to the community. They'll get together every anniversary and talk about being Black Panthers. For those of you in the room who don't know, he was part of a shootout with the New Orleans Police Department back in 1970. I'll just say 70. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But he went from there to Angola, and then from there he was released. He started doing prison activism. He does housing activism. He's run twice as a member of the Green Party for the state of Louisiana. And now we're helping him to open up his community center. So that's a little bit more about Malik. These are the events that we've come to do. So we did the grand opening, the disaster preparedness demonstration, and we also spoke at Festival of Scholars. And these are some of our accomplishments. We're about to wind up going on the radio next Monday. We also helped them to start their digital footprint as well. So doing his YouTube, Malik goes live on Facebook every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 o'clock. So if you were interested, you could go on Facebook and follow him at Malik Rahim. Okay, this is part of the disaster preparedness handout that we gave that Katelin made. I think that there are a few important things that we should say from here, which is, where is it? Oh, if you feel as though you may need a city-assisted evacuation, you can text these words to this number, and it will enroll you in whatever the program is. They have city-assisted evacuations. If you note around the city, there are these statues where it looks like a little outline of a person. That is a pickup point for if there is a city evacuation. So just speaking back to our survey earlier, you don't have to feel stranded if there was an issue. Also, to the same number, if you text the words Ready NOLA, you'll be enlisted in the citywide response to emergencies. So this was one of the tools that we gave out to people at our workshop. Okay, also this is more about the community center. This is the address. This is also Malik Rahim's number. He said y'all can call him if you need him. Okay, also you see that we have things to put inside of your to-go kit. We didn't really get a chance to elaborate too much on the particularities of our presentations, but I invite you all to come and take a picture of this and also to speak with us more and ask us, about disaster preparedness information. Okay, also these are some of the FEMA certifications that they took courses for community preparedness. So everybody up here is certified to be able to discuss community preparedness by FEMA. These are our upcoming events. We'll be on the reality check next Monday. This is us here with you all. Okay, and then Malik Rahim, he couldn't be with us today because he is on a book tour. So someone just put out a book about him, and he's in California right now about to speak about his life, but also what we speak about is the fight for environmental justice. And I think that speaking as someone who works with him, what he would be interested in is making sure that all of you think about how it is that you can help in the struggle against environmental justice. When I showed you all the open bayou, he is part of the effort of people who have helped to plant trees in other areas to try to bring them in and help that area to rebuild. But there's so much work that has to be done. And so if you are motivated about that, you should take it with you in all of your respective fields, because it impacts public health and our ability to live and survive in so many ways on our environment. I usually ask people this, and I just want to make sure. Does everybody in here know that you are in a place that we call Cancer Alley? Okay. So with that being said, then it shows the way that it is that we need to become active about our environment around us. Because if we know that, then we know that there's a cancer cluster. We know that we are going to experience problems as a population, and that this is the kind of solution that we need to have as a population. So again, working together as a community. Okay, I guess we can do little short reflections, and then after that, I think we'll be at time.
What are you doing?
I'm very grateful that I had this experience to be able to work with Melissa and Dr. Cassandra Shepard during this whole semester, if not over the last semester. I didn't think I would be so interested in how solar panels could potentially help communities, could help the environment itself, and what work I could do as now I'm a resident of New Orleans, and what I can do for the like 3 or 4 more years I'll be living here for school. And it just makes me want to do more for the people who also aren't from Louisiana, who hasn't ever dealt with a hurricane before, like for the incoming freshmen we have at Xavier, making sure they feel safe and heard during disasters in case they need anything. So this is a very nice experience to be able to learn how to do that for bigger environments, for different populations of people, and people who already live here as well.
I guess I'll just mention, excuse me, a couple of takeaways that I got from this internship and working with Dr. Shepard and Brenaya and Demarquis, as well as Mr. Rahim. Well, the first one was I had no idea how to do like effective outreach to community or anything like that. So in this internship, learning how to do effective outreach not only to the community, but also to state, federal, local politicians and elected officials and other organizations and programs was really insightful and a good skill to have and to know how to do. And I just want to mention again the emphasis on community in regard to disaster preparedness, because it's like, again, the most important thing. And then everything that I learned about solar power, we did a lot with solar power. And the pros and cons of it and how it connects to potential climate and post-disaster related solutions. I'm taking a class right now called Defining Climate Solutions. So this class helped, or really the internship helped me a lot within thinking about the class and solutions for, say, like transmitting our electrical grid from natural gas to solar or any kind of other renewable resource. So yeah, I took away a lot, and I'm very grateful for the experience that I had.
I could say I'm very grateful to, be able to work with these beautiful people. And even also Malik Rahim himself, he's taught me a lot, not just as like a colleague or a peer, but as a great figure in my life. And I always remember everything he's telling me as a young man. I could say my reflection from this is that as a public health major that attends Xavier University of Louisiana, since a kid I always wanted to help people, and this is a great big step for me to help people, seeing people that are 50 years older than me and informing them, because you never know, you can learn something from anybody. That's why I'm always, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And learning about disaster preparedness with people who've been through disasters like Dr. Shepard or even Katelin, with them being from New Orleans, we often forget that disasters aren't just, hurricanes. She's from, you're from Vegas, correct? So like, there's wildfires, there's all kinds of things, and just like salt size of information can help anybody. I'm more than sure not everyone in here is from here. So, whatever you could learn from just coming out and volunteering and even sitting down and talking to Mr. Rahim himself, you could take that home, because they discuss, solar energy. When I go home, because I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana, that's 2 hours away, no one has solar panels. Everyone relies on natural gas. So I'm even telling my parents, grandparents, cousins, aunties, uncles, like, hey, get a solar generator. You're spending money on this and that. You could save so much money using a solar generator. And it's like the things I'm learning from this can never be taken away from me. The knowledge that I'm gaining from this, the experience I'm having with these 2 college students also, is something we'll always remember. So.
Thank you. Okay, so in conclusion, they said disaster preparedness is an essential skill to have. especially when you're on the Gulf Coast. It's the responsibility of all community members to contribute, which is something that FEMA really stresses, that everyone has their individual strengths, and if we collectively pool them, it will help us as a community to be more prepared. We encourage for everyone to sign up for Zula Safe, this was at Xavier, but for NOLA Ready, you text NOLA Ready or EVAC NOLA to those numbers, and it makes sure that you're at least prepared or inside of the chain for the city, for if there is a disaster, you'll get an alert sent to your phone, which is necessary. Okay, we hope that this presentation informs you a little bit more about how you can remain safe during emergencies and just about some of the general work that we've done. We would like to be able to make sure that, again, you all think about the ways that you could be called to environmental justice service. And if you're interested, then please talk to us afterward about working with Malik and the center. Okay, so for my final survey, my question would be, can you raise your hand if you learned anything more that makes you feel a little bit better about being prepared for an emergency? Okay, keep them nice and high. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 29. Okay, 29. I think I counted, I think it's 29 out of 31 people now that we've gone through in our discussion. Okay, so this was part of the QR code for getting involved. If you would like to volunteer, then by all means, please take a screenshot or scan it. Y'all know what to do. Y'all know what to do. Okay, and also this is contact information. Malik Rahim, we hooked him up with the Instagram. So he's on Instagram. Sometimes he goes live, and he also is the same on Facebook. Okay, so you can Malik Rahim on Facebook or Instagram. Don't send him a DM, he doesn't know what that means yet. Okay, but he still is capable. You can still catch him streaming, and he considers social media to be one of the ways that we can still independently connect with one another, especially if we have each other's information that we can like make sure that we focus on each other, as opposed to, you know, media that distracts you and brings you other places. So he considers it to be a pride and joy to stream, and he does it religiously. Okay, and then also that's my Instagram on there. Okay, so with that being said, that was all for our presentation. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Also, emphasis on the volunteer application. So for the community center itself, we want to get involved with any of our programs that we have coming up, and any initiatives you want to give us ideas for.
Discussion is open. Questions or thoughts, anything that anybody might want to ask us or comment on, please.
I got a question. We all able to present any of this to the city officials or the?
I was going to say, so we definitely did try. I can't remember exactly what it's called when we put our
Public comment.
Yes, up for comment, to be spoken to elected officials, to hear about the opening, to hear about what we're trying to do over there. Yeah, definitely.
So we had 2 events inside of the center. Both times we have canvassed. So this is what Katelin meant by outreach. We called the elected officials, the people who I messaged them. I know some people, okay, that's not saying anything, but just saying we contacted them. We also put out letters to their offices. We also submitted a public comment into City Hall when they were holding a meeting. So we tried to make sure that we reached out. We did city council, we did some state officials, and I'll just make sure to say, Representative Delisha Boyd came. She came on opening day, and she's been having a lot of contact with Malik. She's come out, I believe, like maybe 2 other times, and now she wants to help him understand more about, you know, the center, the ways that it can function, and what resources they have that can help him. So I think it's important to note that she came. But that also is something to say then, I didn't list anybody else's name. So that is something that Malik wants to be able to work with more people who are in those offices. And we want to try to set up those relationships as we move forward. You know, it's a new endeavor, but also some people are just opposed to Malik for other political reasons. Even the fact that he was a Black Panther is still considered to be controversial. And this is a small aside, but maybe a month ago, they put a story out in The Nation. It's a publication, you all can look it up, where they talked about the fact that the FBI is still conducting surveillance on the Black Panthers. So, and in the article, they said that they went from just being observant to, at a certain point in Malik and him working with Common Ground, in their history, they went from a observer to a provocateur, which means that they start actively trying to take down the person or to get their movements to kick them out. And they'll yield grant money. So they'll say, well, if you want this grant, you should remove this person. Now, when I met Malik, he said that that was happening. And I, of course, believed him, because it doesn't take much to tell me that the FBI, CIA is still keeping intel on people. But the article follows other Black Panthers and says that they were isolated from their movements in the same way. So there has been some kind of slur campaign to divorce people away from him and the action that it is that he wants to take. But it feels really crazy when you're like, you mean the man who wants to plant trees and, you know, like, what are you saying? And so I think that it's important to note that there's some of that at play. It's still a political thing, but that what he wants to do is something that does upset people, you know, to tell people, well, we should use solar. We should not be as dependent on these resources that are, you know, easy to deteriorate, go away, limited, pollute the atmosphere when we're trying to extract them. So, I mean, people get upset about that. So just to speak back more to it, I'll say we wish that we would see more support, and I hope that moving forward we will. But we did do a job of trying to make sure that the elected officials knew what was taking place. Thank you for your question. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, thoughts? Yes.
To what extent do you think that service learning inches us towards the radical change required for environmental change in New Orleans?
Ooh, that's really good. That's really good. I'll say I think that it really does place us in a closer proximity, because what you saw on the screen is intergenerational movement, right? If we are just college students and, you know, young people like me, if we're just doing this by ourselves, then I think that sometimes people can dismiss young people, right? And it keeps you in a silo. And there's been a lot, I think, done to make people think, well, old people, they're old, right? And so that creates this divide, and we know that through division, other people get power. But when we all come together and we're all of the same mind and our demands are clear and simple, I think that that gives us strategic leverage, right? So that is where we can put our power together and all have the same mind, same voice about what I consider to be basic needs. You know, clean air, clean water, you know, the ability to be able to adapt to whatever it is that comes your way. Those are basic demands. And I don't really understand why those are controversial, but I see. So I do think that service learning helps us, because it also ensures, like I said, you're not just learning a bunch of theories. We could have got up here and just said, well, you know, disaster, first defined by Socrates, and we could have did that, as opposed to, no, sign up for this, do this, have this, look at this checklist. So it makes sure that you know what to do. And I think that that is the leverage. That is where the work happens. And if we could bring in those elected officials, or that, then that really is true power. Did y'all want to add something?
Yeah, I'll add to that. What I have learned through my studies here is that environmental change and environmental policy, environmental laws, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, did not happen just because they thought it was something that they would like to do. It was needed. It was something that we needed, and it was something that people were concerned about at the time. And because of the amount of pollution that we had during when the Clean Water Act and Clean Air Act were implemented. And so what I would say to that is, in order to get to environmental change, we need to connect to the community. And service learning is directly about the community and bringing people together. Community service is about bringing people together and trying to move toward a common goal and getting on the same page about something. And I feel like if we could bring more people together to get on the same page about climate change, about pollution, about greenhouse gases, and get everybody informed about those things and how they impact us, then we can get more change. Because if people knew more about it, then there would be more outcry. But more, more people don't know than you think.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, I feel like it's easier to provide service when you're doing the service. So on a greater scale, I didn't think I would be able to do something like this on a greater scale in general. I knew what service was. I thought it was just volunteering. I thought it was just, I'm donating. I thought it was just like limited things. But it's more to actually do things, drive initiatives, make demonstrations, present in demonstrations, and talk to the people within that community than just, volunteering or just reading how to do something. Because it's just the be in service to provide service. So.
And I'll also just say it also helps to create sustained relationships, because now we have relationships with organizations, with people, with some people who are community leaders, and even just residents who are just around and decided that they would come out. And those are relationships that we can continue to build on, right? And those people are going to be looking more toward the work that it is that we're doing and how we can all work together. So I do think that service learning is a key, and I really wish that we had more of that happening to make sure that there's actual tangible change that can be done with our classes. Okay. I think we had Dr. McClellan. Did you have something?
Yeah, I've got one. So it's sort of connected with the opening question. I was just kind of curious, give me a little bit of what you have, context of so I know we've got FEMA, and then there's the state and the city.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty clearly uneducated. We demonstrated that at the opening, so it sounds like there's not enough done there. Can you talk a little about how those different parts sort of coordinate and how that coordinates with the community part, and so there's not duplication, and how do you work together? What do you see as your central task?
Oh, that's really interesting. So, what FEMA has put out is that they are supposed to be able to help you after about 3 days of you independently working on your own, okay? And even just kind of depends on what's going on. The city also kind of has the same mind. They try to come in and help you to be able to get to the 3 days before FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, before they can come in and deliver services. Now, when we started doing our disaster preparedness demonstrations, though, we said, FEMA has said that you have to support yourself for the first 3 days. But what we know from Hurricane Katrina is that it could be 5 days, 6 days, 7 days before you wind up actually receiving federal services. And with the latest cuts that the Trump administration is planning to do to FEMA, they may not be able to even respond then. Remember, he also said he wants to completely do away with FEMA in its entirety. So you may not have someone come to rescue you. And I should also say Hurricane Katrina then is one of those events that help people to start doomsday prepping, right? If you look at a lot of doomsday preppers, a lot of them will say that once they saw Hurricane Katrina, That is what let them know you're on your own if there's a disaster. Okay, so I'll just say the city is supposed to make it so that if you need dire help in those first 3 days, they're there. That's the reason why they were putting people inside of the Superdome for the initial storm. And then FEMA is supposed to come in about 3 days after an initial incident. So where our information comes in is getting people prepared to be able to last that 3 to 7 day window. So we were talking about what supplies it is that they would need to be able to last. We also spoke about different types of disasters, so not just hurricane related. But then also, once a disaster occurs and people are trying to come back, we talked about the relief agencies that are needed then afterward. And that's where the community lighthouses come in and where our training with the lighthouses come in as well. So helping people, I asked when we were at the community lighthouse, well, are you saying that in the midst of a Category 5 hurricane, people are gonna be in your church waiting? And they say, well, no, that's not the point. The point of the community lighthouse is not to help people to get through the disaster. It's once they're trying to come back, or when you're trying to have a community to be restored. They can come here, they can eat, get some water. They actually made partnerships with restaurants that were inside of the area so that the restaurants who are trying to get rid of old food can cook their food and donate it to the shelter or to the community lighthouse. So I feel like in that way, people are understanding what their role is during a disaster, when it is that they kick in and when other people and their services come into play. So we've been kind of talking about that. Also for Malik's center, we want to try to make his center a community lighthouse. So he already has the generators there, and we have some of our disaster preparedness stuff that is housed there. We also had other technology that we didn't show, like we did the atmospheric water generator that extracts water from out of the air. And in Louisiana, it's really good to have that because of all the moisture. We also did the desalinator that extracts salt from out of the water in case you need it. So there was like I said, we can't get into all of the technology that we used, but some of it is housed at the center, and it's there to help people whenever they want to come back to rebuild.
I also just want to mention in response to your question, the point of contacting state and city officials is because they have a direct involvement in stuff like that, in FEMA, in what kind of care and repair people will receive, and just so they know what we're trying to do and if they want to be involved in trying to help things.
I saw another hand over here.
First of all, I just want to thank y'all for coming, and it was really great. I really like what y'all are doing with service learning, but I wanted to know if there were any proactive community organizations that worked with solar panels in the city that made it more like affordable and more affordable and easier to install.
I'll take that one. So I'll say that, first of all, some of the history behind the solar panels is that after Hurricane Katrina, people went into the lower Ninth Ward and were trying to tell them that they were going to be the greenest city on the planet. And so they had gotten people into some of these like loans, low interest loans behind solar, people who really couldn't afford even the low interest loans. And a lot of people wound up having bad experiences with solar throughout the city because of that. They had Obama's plan to be able to lower the cost of solar, but with low interest loans, it just didn't really work out. For the Together New Orleans Community Lighthouse folks, so what they decided to do was, if we can have a mega structure that then runs off of solar, then everybody can just come here, right? And so they are integrating more and more churches. So it's almost like what they've decided to do is go the community prepared route. instead of the individual prepared route. And what they want to do is have the community lighthouses within a 5-minute walking distance, so that wherever you are inside of the city, you're only a few minutes away from the ability to have power after a disaster. So that's not to say like that there aren't groups that are working on individual solar, but at one point there was like this really bad turning point, and so people are thinking about what we can do together as one.
That makes sense, thank you.
Okay.
Has this model been tried like in Houston, like where I know they had a lot of problems there, or South Florida?
Yeah.
Have y'all heard of any of that?
I haven't heard of this particular model. It sounded like y'all was about to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if you're looking to work with solar panels, I know that Footprint, that they're taking interns at the moment. So if you want to look
And
into
also,
that.
some of our organizations did emergency preparedness in North Carolina. So, and this goes a little bit deeper into the presentation. But this is somebody from Footprint. Taproot? Footprint. And she just came down from North Carolina. And what they wound up doing is taking all of their resources from down here and just sending it up to North Carolina, so that she dropped stuff off to be able to help people to have solar energy during that time. So I'll say we have different, and this is Rain, her specialization is water and engineering. So we have people who they were going out into these areas, going to California with the technology. But as far as the community lighthouse model, I'm not quite sure where else we see that.
Because it seems like a great model you could send to other areas, that similar disasters. Everybody has disasters.
I agree. And also, maybe this is a good point to say that because of climate change, we're expecting there to be an increase in disasters, and really rogue disasters. Now, people may not, maybe it didn't trigger for people, but we had a snowstorm, right? We had a foot of snow inside of the city. And so that goes to show that even the emergencies that you're not prepared for, you can be subjected to. I think part of the work that we've done is we've had to say, okay, everybody thinks hurricanes. What if it's not a hurricane, right? So also just being prepared in general for whatever may come your way. And I think one of the other little nuggets that I'll give is my mom has always told me that, I believe it's the Amish, they are prepared for a year's worth of a disaster, like a year's worth of food. They'll can things, they have different ways of preserving food, so that if anything happens, if the grocery, my mom, rest her spirit, okay, she always said, if the trucks don't show up to Walmart, how would you eat, right? Because a lot of people are not prepared for that. If there's a break inside of the supply chain, that is an emergency. And I think that we may have seen something like that during COVID, when you went into the stores and of course, there was no toilet paper. I mean, come on. Okay, so we've seen how people hoard resources and supply chains can be broken. So I would just, again, emphasize for everyone to even personally be prepared and think about the ways that you can increase your preparedness. Additionally, I know I'm dealing with mostly college students. There are ways to do that in affordable manners. They have little smaller solar generators. You could buy for $200. You could have a little setup that could power you through with your smaller devices. And I'll tell people, go to Dollar Tree, spend an extra $20 and grab some of the stuff on the shelves and put it in a little tub and just keep it. So there are other ways that you could be prepared, even on a budget, and for any disaster. Okay. I think that's all. Thank you all so much for having us. I really appreciate it. Thank you.